The superpower that every citizen has is the ability to control where they spend their time, money, and attention. By focusing these on supporting local businesses, you are having a profound impact on your friends, your family, and your local community. So if you want to change the world, you can start with buying local.
Welcome back, everyone, to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson. This week, we are joined by Chris Leuzinger from Hopefully I said that right, Chris.
You did, yeah.
Okay,
You're good.
Even though I practiced it 5 times before the
That's
episode.
all right. And I told you.
I was staying right. I was still worried. Chris is from Nourishing Minds, which, if I'm saying this correctly, you're a tutoring service?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about what Nourishing Minds does.
We go into people's homes and we help kids that are struggling academically. We also help kids who are ahead academically and everywhere in between.
Sure.
We cover everything from preschool all the way through college. Basically, if you know anyone or anybody's having some struggles with schoolwork, we're there to help.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to live by all the bureaucracy that schools do, so which is a big plus for us. We kind of we'll run an assessment. We'll see exactly where the kids are, and we'll see what we need to do to help. Whether that's going back a little bit to help fill in some gaps, or whether it's pushing forward with something new.
Pushing forward with something new. And like you said, it's not just for kids that are struggling. Like sometimes you just have kids that really are trying to, I don't want to say overachievers, but they're just really concerned with doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my kids is like that. She
absolutely.
Even if she's got a 100 in her class, she's still going to the extra credit study sessions and stuff. Yeah. So now, where do you operate out of?
We operate in people's homes, in public spaces, libraries, coffee shops, wherever they want to meet. We usually leave that up to the customer. Vast majority of the time, we go right to their homes.
Okay.
So it's convenient for them. We joke around all the time saying people can go work out, watch Netflix, hang out, cook dinner, do whatever they want to do, read a book. But it's one more thing that they don't have to do.
Sure.
They don't have to come home from a busy day at work, take their kids somewhere else, wait around for an hour, pick them up, take them home.
Right.
We just come right to them. And we go everywhere. We've been as far south as East Greenbush, Guilderland, Rotterdam, through Albany, and then all the way up north to Lake George. Okay. Anywhere in between that.
So that's a pretty good sized footprint.
Yeah.
Now, I remember we spoke, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so.
So you've been in business for how long?
We are going on 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
And did you tell me that specifically, like the pandemic really kind of was a big growth, or just has it been slow and steady for 9 years?
It's been slow and steady for 9 years. We've kind of taken our time on purpose, really. Yeah. We started with me, myself, and I when we did kindergarten through 8th grade. That's what I was qualified for. That's what I did in the classroom, focusing more on kind of like the upper end of that range. Yeah. But I knew the curriculum, and I was qualified through that. We didn't start out offering just everything. And then within about 3 years, we brought a couple of people on board to work with us.
Very nice.
Some tutors and staff. And then within about 5 years, we expanded to cover everything. Yeah. And now we do everything from, right now our youngest student is in preschool, and our oldest student's in college doing some finance work. Yeah.
Was it a struggle to not try to be everything to everyone?
It was. We turned down business at the start.
Yeah.
People would call and say, "Hey, can you do high school science?" And I'd say, "Sorry, I can't because I'm not qualified in it." And I didn't want to provide that level of service to people. I didn't want to just go and take their money without providing that value.
Yeah.
So now what we do is we've got a team of people that work for us. We work anywhere between about 5 tutors to about 25. Depending on what the requests are, what the needs are. We try and make sure that all of our staff are qualified and experts in what they do. They're not always qualified teachers, especially high school, when you start looking at some of the advanced sciences and math and things like that. Mm-hmm. So long as they're experts in that field, almost all of them have got further degrees, master's degrees, PhDs. Mm-hmm. Elementary, middle school, they're all teachers. And we kind of pair people up based on what their need is. If you give me a call and you want a calculus teacher, I'm not going to send you a kindergarten teacher.
Right.
And vice versa. Totally different skill sets. So, yeah.
I'm curious, how did you come up with this idea? Like, how did this thing, how was this born?
It's a good idea. It was born really out of Fluke. So a bit of my background, I spent 12 years in a classroom. Okay. The last 5 of which were kind of half administration, half class teaching. I would teach math and English in the morning, and in the afternoon, I'd be out of class doing administration work, helping other teachers improve their craft, help them get better, pushing curriculum, improving curriculum, all that kind of stuff. And that was actually in England. And then when my wife and I moved back to Saratoga Springs, I thought that I'd always just kind of zip back into the classroom, spend a few years in the classroom, and work my way back up to administration. My credentials are all foreign, so I did my teaching credential certifications in New Zealand. And at the time when we moved back here, we thought we did our due diligence, and we thought that, oh yeah, when I called the education department in New York State, they said, you have to arrive, you write these 3 tests, and you're good to go. You'll be qualified, we'll certify your credentials, and it's good. We arrived in mid-June, and I called them at the end of June and said, hey, I'm here. I spoke to whoever it was, about 3 months ago, and they said I needed to call and schedule these exams, and I could take them and sit them, and you'd give me my certifications. And they said, oh, bad news. As of May 31st, we're no longer qualifying foreign credentials. You've got to go and I had to go back and do more undergraduate work.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't really like that idea, having degrees already and all that kind of stuff.
And this was in New York State?
It was New York State, yeah.
That sounds crazy that they didn't make it easy on you.
Yeah.
Wow, New York State.
I mean, I'm certainly not unique. You hear that type of story in all sorts of industries.
Especially in New York State.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be bagging on New York State, but that
all right.
seems to be a theme.
So we kind of, after a bit of a tantrum and after having a bit of I don't know, I got to leave New York State. I'm going to go somewhere else where I can actually do what I love to do. We started looking around. And when I was younger, I did a bit of tutoring. I was overseas, did some tutoring there. Was always paid cash kind of under the table, and it was pretty decent money. And I thought, well, maybe I can just do that until we figure out what we want to do and what the next steps are. And then when I kind of started crunching some of the numbers, I figured out that it was probably a bit too much money to keep from the IRS if it started to take off. We started looking around the local area. There wasn't a lot of competition in Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate. We had some money saved up. We were able to take a chance, and we just kind of did it. We shoestringed everything at the start. I did our first website, which was, you'll look at it and tell me it's terrible.
Not at all. Not at all.
But as we started gaining some traction and getting some clients, we then reinvested most of the profits back into the business to get proper websites and, all that kind of stuff. But largely over that 9 years, we've grown through word of mouth.
Very nice.
We haven't really spent very much money at all advertising.
Yeah.
We're in the process of trying to change a little bit of that and perhaps drive a little bit more growth and see where our footprint can take us. And really, the ultimate goal of that, though, is to help more kids. As you mentioned, the pandemic. And the pandemic definitely changed the trajectory of our business.
Yeah.
We got busier. It's been slow growth up to that point, but that was kind of where the line went steeper.
Yeah.
More kids wanted help. More families wanted help, especially with schools being shut down and kids being at home. I think a lot of working parents found out it's not as easy to educate your children as what some people maybe think it is.
Yeah.
And I'm a teacher. My wife's a teacher. And we have a hard time educating our own children. Kids don't see parents in that role.
No.
A lot of times there's stress, animosity.
What's
tears,
the old story now? Like you could tell your kid to do something a certain way, like 100 times, and they'll never listen to you. But as soon as like their uncle or aunt or someone else tells them, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." And what?
Yeah. So we hit the ground running with that. We had some pods going throughout the capital region through the pandemic to help other kids and help more kids. We've just always rolled with the punches, really, and just kind of adapted to whatever we need to.
Now, pods. You said pods. What's a pod?
So a pod was, during the pandemic, it was a group of parents who would hire a teacher to teach a group of kids outside school. Mm-hmm. So you'd maybe we capped ours at 6 students, anywhere between, our smallest one was 2, and then our largest one was 6. And it was just basically parents wanted a teacher to make sure their kids were being educated, learning, because there was a lot of uncertainty at that time. School districts were scrambling to try and figure out what they could do remotely. That going into that academic year, there wasn't 100% certainty that schools were going to remain open.
Yeah,
we thought maybe they'd shut down again, and even with some maybe rolling closures, there were times where classes were shut down, and parents wanted to make sure that kids had that opportunity to be educated. So they would contract us out. I'd provide them a teacher, and we do kind of as much or as little as they wanted.
And so do you see, obviously that was, not everyone was able to grab someone to help their kids, right? To kind of stay, I don't even know what the word is, kind of stay on top of their studies, so to speak. Because I feel like I keep hearing or reading about that, like, as a national average, like we're kind of behind because
slipping.
of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen any kind of increase in business because of that, where kids maybe they didn't get the extra help during the pandemic, but now their parents are trying to help them catch up?
Absolutely. We hear that, and when you talk to the kids themselves, kids are very honest. They'll talk to you. They'll tell you what's going on at school, and there are whole topics that aren't taught now. You talk about math, and I had a kid in 6th grade last year. The teacher just kind of skipped the circle unit. So learning how to work out circumference, area of circles, things like that, he didn't know.
Wow.
Due to constraints with things going on at school.
Yeah.
Reading, we've seen dips in that nationally. The reading averages are going down. Kids aren't reading as well as they were before.
Yeah.
And a big part of it as well is it's the whole mental aspect, the whole mental piece. Kids seem to be struggling a little bit more that way. Going back into school
from a mental health standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely see that for sure.
Yeah. So we kind of tell people, we're that safe person that comes and builds a rapport with your child. We can help them get through academics, but a lot of times what happens is we integrate right into the families.
Yeah.
And we get to know the families, the moms, the dads, the brothers, sisters, sometimes grandparents. We get to know them, and we just kind of work alongside them, helping their kids get what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What other kind of trends do you think that you're seeing right now as far as learning? Like, is there a big shift? I feel like a lot. I shouldn't even say that because this is just I'm making information up. But do you see a trend with homeschoolers at all? Public schools? Like, are there any shifts that you're seeing in education?
So it's funny you said that. We are seeing more requests on our side of things for parents who are homeschooling.
Yeah.
Parents who are, for whatever reason, it's up to them. It works for some kids. It works really well for some kids. It doesn't work for others. We're seeing a bigger uptick with people trying to keep the kids at home, whether it's, they're upset with the school districts or New York State with what's being pushed down, or whether they just
can't imagine why anyone would be upset with New York State.
No, me neither.
So crazy.
But we're being asked to help that way. And legally as a business, I can kind of do about 50% of that. Yeah. So I could do about 50% of the educating if I do
with the homeschool
with homeschooling kids. Yeah.
Because I don't understand that. So is it like it's like against the law to hire a teacher?
Not really.
Kids? Like,
it's not really against the law, but for me as a for-profit business, if I was to do more than that, I would open myself up to inspections from New York State, and I'd have to classify myself as a school.
Interesting.
So there's different licensing requirements. There's different things that go along with that. And at this place, so where we're at, we're just not really wanting to go down that route.
Yeah.
It's not kind of what we do. We kind of try and help more kids,
yeah.
Not necessarily taking over all their education, but just help fill in some of the gaps or push them forward where we need to. But we are seeing more families looking at homeschooling. And I've worked quite closely with some families to help them do all the paperwork to submit to their school districts.
Yeah.
Help put together an educational plan. It's nothing too onerous. It's just sometimes people are looking for a bit of guidance. And once the ball gets rolling, we take care of some of it and they take care of some of it. And it's just, again, there's little groups within the community that they can get together and do things. And it's, I think, easier than what a lot of people realize it is. It doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Is it right for your family?
Yeah. It's I know a few families, and that was one of the things that my understanding was that, like, they couldn't actually hire someone to come in and do the teaching, that they have to be responsible for most of it.
You can hire someone to do some of the teaching, but like I said, it's some of it. It's some of it. It's just you can't really hire me to come in and do 100% of it.
Yeah. Right. And that's, I was like, well, in my mind, I'm like, well, you guys should get like 5 or 6 families together and like just hire someone, and they're like, no, you can't do that in New York State. You can do it in other states, but not New York State.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about, are you using your website? You talked about your website earlier as far as like a resource or is there like any kind of online stuff that you do with your students?
So we haven't done that yet. So we haven't really zipped into the whole educational apps or, any of the learning that way.
The virtual stuff.
Yeah. Kids are bombarded with that stuff at school. Yeah, so what we usually do is support what they're doing at school in terms of the technology, the apps, the online learning. One of the things that we hear quite regularly from parents is that they actually don't want another login. Another app. They're bombarded with school. There's not much continuity even within school districts, it seems, what teachers use. There's certain platforms that they use, but then you can go 2 miles down the road to another district and it's a totally different platform.
Yeah.
And with different age kids in different schools, there's different platforms and parents are just bombarded with apps and passwords and they're kind of over it. That's one thing that I've noticed with pandemic and COVID and online learning, a lot of families are wanting to get back to where we were in terms of let's get my kids in person, let's learn that way.
Yeah, maybe even use a textbook instead of staring at a screen. Though.
Yeah.
Like I definitely feel like there's a digital fatigue.
There is a little bit, and I think it's actually changing kids' brains. There's research out there to say that the flashing images, how fast they're bombarded with different moving media and all that, it's actually changing the chemical physical makeup of the brain.
That's crazy.
So that's what's leading to some of the ADHD, and it's harder for kids to sit in a class like you and I did, perhaps. How many years ago that was, where we just look at the...
I'll tell you what, I struggled just even without all that stuff. I struggled sitting in a class
sitting in a classroom looking
a
at a blackboard for an hour at a time. Kids just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
They need to fidget. They need to move. Things need to change. So it's definitely something that we're aware of with our lessons as well. We try and keep the lessons when we're working with kids moving. We try to do multiple things within a session so they're not just sitting and, looking blindly at the same thing for an hour.
Now, I don't even know if... I think they finally got away from Common Core math.
There's the next generation learning standards, which is similar. Common Core that's not actually something I'd sit here and bash too much. I think Common Core I'm one of the few.
It was just confusing.
And that's just it. It's confusing to almost anyone that didn't grow up doing it.
Right.
And the way I've kind of tried to describe that to people is when you and I grew up, for example, just giving you an arbitrary example, we grew up learning one way to do something.
Yeah.
If we were adding, if we were subtracting, multiplying, dividing, whatever the case was, the teacher would teach us one way. Usually it was just rote memorization and do it. There wasn't a lot of description behind it, not any analysis, not
remember
why are
your
we doing
times
it.
tables, remember it. Yeah.
And Common Core kind of teaches multiple ways of doing things now. And I remember being in teachers college and being like literally petrified of teaching math. I went to teachers college like mid-20s, scared of math because I always had that mentality when I grew up that I stunk, I was no good, I couldn't do it. And I was never very successful with it. And I had a college professor that spent a ridiculous amount of time kind of retraining my brain to think more mathematically. And I remember no fewer than probably 6 or 7 times saying to her, why the hell didn't anybody teach me this like 20 years ago? Because it makes total sense to me. And she said, welcome to Common Core. She said, that's what we're doing. We're teaching multiple ways to do things.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the ways that we learned are still taught. But it's kind of like, here's a few other ways that you could do it. Now choose what works best for you.
Well, so that's kind of my question, right? Is and not necessarily to bash Common Core, because that's not my objective, but really just kind of, when it comes to all the different things that are in schools now, how do you, as a business, or how do your tutors, how do they stay up on all that stuff?
So we usually, a lot of my staff are actually teachers in local school districts.
Okay.
And they kind of, they moonlight for me, working a few hours a week here and there, whatever they want. So most of them are up on it because they're in schools, they're in the trenches, they see it. But we work quite closely with the students, with the families, and with the schools. So we'll contact the schools and we'll talk right with the teachers and we'll say, hey, what are you doing? This is who we are. How can we help? And a lot of teachers in the local school districts are more than happy to send us that email, have that quick phone call with us and say, hey, this is what we're working on. Can you try this? Oh, they struggled with this week in school. Can you help with this? So there's that collaboration between us and the schools as well. That's cool. Not just, oh, hey, yeah, we're this independent party that doesn't communicate with anybody.
Right.
We try and get as involved as possible. The old adage, it takes a village, and that's kind of what we do. Yeah.
That's interesting. What? How about to kind of circle back a little bit to what we were talking about before with some of where the numbers are going right now nationally and all that. Do you see any subjects specifically that people are struggling with more? Or?
I mean, by far and away, our biggest two are probably math and English. They're the what you call the core subjects in school.
Why do you think it's math and English? And for the record, I sucked at math when I was growing up.
Yeah, I did too. And now I love it. I love teaching math. It's crazy how life works out. I don't know. The numbers confuse people. Sometimes things go fast in schools. Yeah. They're moving from topic to topic to topic quite quickly. So if you take a little bit more time, or you need more time or more practice to kind of solidify those concepts in your head, I think it sometimes snowballs. and kids get further behind. And, math kind of builds on itself. So you learn one thing to learn something else.
That's how I felt
something.
when I was younger about math. Is I got confused at one point, maybe sixth grade, and it just never turned around.
And it's funny you mentioned sixth grade, because that's kind of like the age that most parents kind of hit the tap button.
Yeah.
And we work with kids at all sorts of ages, but a lot of parents call and say, "Oh, hey, kids hit middle school. I have no idea what they're doing. I have no idea what they're talking about. I can't do that, and we need help."
Well, and it's also like school really changes for kids once they hit sixth grade, in most school systems anyway, because now you're switching classes. You
a little bit more independence.
Yeah. And like you said,
puberty
moving
starts
quickly.
kicking in for most kids. That's a great time, isn't it?
That whole I've got 3 teenagers right now. So.
Well, I'll talk to you in a few years when I've got 3.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I figured anything out.
Yeah.
No promises.
Yeah.
No promises. So what about... Now, you're located in Saratoga, though, right?
Yeah, we're located in Saratoga locally here. And like I said, the bulk of our business is kind of between Malta and probably Wilton, Queensbury, Glens Falls area. But like I said, we go further north, further south. We're able to handle most requests now.
So now, I should bring up the fact that you are obviously very much all about serving others, okay? Because your business is a service-based business with helping people, and then when you're not helping kids learn better, you're also the... what do you do with the fire department?
The assistant chief.
The assistant chief.
Yeah.
I was going to call you the chief, and I was like, wait, he might be the assistant. I don't want to give him a promotion.
First assistant chief.
And I'm sure that keeps you pretty busy.
Title. Yeah, it's like another full-time job.
Yeah. But again, another industry.
Helping people. It's. I think back about even most of the jobs I've had, even the younger ones, it's kind of working with people, helping people, and I don't know. That's just what I like to do, I guess.
It feels good.
I like to talk to people. It feels good. I like to be around people. I'm a pretty social guy.
Yeah.
I like to hang out and have fun when I can, and just I don't know, just kind of fell into it really.
Yeah. And you brought up your wife, and you guys moved in from overseas in England. And what does your wife do now?
My wife's a teacher as well.
She's a teacher.
Yeah, she teaches kids with special needs.
Oh, wow.
Down at Shenandoah Octave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So we're busy. 3 kids, and we're all just living our lives,
doing the stuff and doing the things. Yeah,
exactly.
Man. It's thank God the nice weather's here, so we can get outside and play a little bit.
Yeah.
So, tell us how can people find out about you, or if they're thinking like, hey, I feel like I need this guy in my life. How do they get a hold of Nourishing Minds?
They can check us out, our website, www.nourishingmindstutoring.com, Facebook, Instagram. We're starting to have a little bit more of an active footprint, I guess, on that.
On the social.
So people can do that. Bulk of our business is referrals. You start asking around. I bet you some of your friends have used us before.
It's a small community.
Yeah, we do offer referral programs as well. Cool. Discounts and stuff for referring. Phone number 518-415-2423. People can get that. They can get me directly with that number.
Awesome.
And I can have, there's no commitments, no anything. Just have a conversation, see if we can help.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Appreciate what you do for the kids in the community, and obviously appreciate what you do as the assistant fire chief as well.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening. You can check us out on SaratogaBusinessReport.com. That's SaratogaBusinessReport.com, and I believe we're on all the social media channels as well, the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, maybe somewhere else. I don't even know.
There's too many of them.
There's too many, that's right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
The superpower that every citizen has is the ability to control where they spend their time, money, and attention. By focusing these on supporting local businesses, you are having a profound impact on your friends, your family, and your local community. So if you want to change the world, you can start with buying local.